Thunder!
Hey everybody, how's it going? The Switch 2 Direct is about a few weeks away and I'm getting super excited for it. We're finally entering a new generation for Nintendo after 8 years with the Switch 1. It is crazy to think that it's finally happening. What exactly could we expect with a new system? What types of features are going to be included? What are some of the new games that we can expect? That's what I'm going to try and tackle in this video. I have some thoughts on what we could potentially see in the Switch 2 Direct, and while I'm probably going to be incorrect with majority of these predictions, it's still fun to talk about regardless. So let's just get into it. Let's talk price. The price is going to be $400 USD. I really don't see Nintendo going any higher with this. They're going to want the Switch 2 to be affordable to consumers, and they're also going to have to compete with the other console offerings from their competitors. I just can't see Nintendo coming in at $450 when that would place the Switch 2 at the exact same price point as the digital PlayStation 5. As for the release date, I think that the Switch 2 will come out in early July. This would position the Switch 2 after June, which is sort of the summer showcase season. Nintendo most likely won't have a June Direct of their own since they're already having the Switch 2 Direct in April. At most, I could see maybe a game-specific mini Direct, but this is more to give other publishers the opportunity to reveal games that they might be launching within the Switch 2's launch window at their own presentations before release. Alright, now that we've gotten the basic info out of the way, let's move into Switch 2 hardware. I am not expecting too many major surface level changes. The system is basically just going to be a bigger Switch in terms of form factor. I think the screen is now going to be 1080p instead of 720p. However, I am still not expecting OLED for this first iteration of the system. Nintendo will also take the time to talk about how the new Joy-Cons connect with magnets instead of the old rail system, and they'll also talk about upgraded thumbsticks without outright mentioning the drift issues, despite drift being the reason for the upgraded sticks. I could also see them revealing a few new color options for the new Joy-Cons. While we're on the topic of Joy-Con, let's talk about the new mouse functionality. I think it's officially going to be called Joy Mouse, and each Joy-Con is going to come with this functionality built in. Nintendo is going to talk about games that are going to be updated from the Switch 1 to support Joy Mouse functionality, such as Super Mario Maker 2 for navigation and shooters like Splatoon 3 for aiming. There's also going to be a brand new tech demo game showcasing the functionality. It's going to be a follow-up to Snipper Clips called Snipper Clicks because, you know, it's a mouse. The game will be available at launch. For the other big app for showcasing the mouse functionality, Nintendo will take us on a trip down memory lane and talk about how the Super Nintendo actually had a mouse as well that was used primarily with Mario Paint. While we aren't going to get a new Mario Paint, we will get a spiritual successor app called Nintendo Canvas. This app will be preloaded on the system right out of the box. Nintendo Canvas fully uses the mouse to create both art and music, and it can also be used for editing videos and photos made with the capture button. But Canvas is more than just a creation tool. Nintendo will claim that it represents a space for expression, like a blank canvas, which now brings us to that mysterious C button. When the Switch 2 was first being leaked, a button marked with a C could be seen below the home button. This button is still present in official renders of the Switch 2, but the C is nowhere to be found on the button. I'm going to say that the C stands for Canvas. Now, I already said that the Canvas app itself is a creation tool, but pressing the actual C button, however, opens a sort of hub. Canvas is essentially going to be this big community, almost a natural evolution of Miiverse. You'll be able to see friend activity as well as message friends and create new voice chat sessions. We will finally have voice chat capabilities available on the console itself rather than being tied down to an external phone app. The button will also be context sensitive based on whatever game you're playing. Say you press it during a Mario Kart session. You'll be able to see Canvas created content relevant to that game, and you can also invite friends directly into the game from the Canvas app. Canvas is going to be Nintendo's way of truly trying to make the Switch 2 a more social console. Now that we've talked about some new features, let's move on to a feature of the Switch 2 that we already know about: backwards compatibility. Pretty much all Switch games, with the exception of stuff like Labo and maybe Ring Fit, will be playable on the Nintendo Switch 2. The games will run better thanks to the Nintendo Switch 2's increased hardware power, as well as some DLSS upscaling from Nvidia, but they won't just automatically be insanely better running games. Some games will receive smaller updates to support new Switch 2 features like the Joy Mouse. However, certain titles on a case-by-case basis will have much more substantial upgrades for the Switch 2 at a small cost. One of the games they will show with this is going to be Breath of the Wild, and we'll be able to see a direct comparison between the Switch 1 and 2 versions of the game. Moving on from backwards compatibility, let's talk about the the next big Nintendo Switch Online update. Nintendo is going to reiterate that all current Nintendo Switch Online offerings will be available on the Switch 2 day one. I also think that they'll introduce the Nintendo DS to the NSO expansion pack as the next system. DS games feel like the next obvious choice, especially with the mouse functionality being able to act as sort of a replacement for the touch input. I could also see them introducing GameCube and potentially Wii games as well as an even higher price tier of NSO. As much as I would love for them to do Virtual Console for GameCube and Wii and just allow us to buy individual titles outright, I think that Nintendo is much more likely to go for the NSO subscription model and do the same drip feed of games with these systems like they do for the other systems on the service. Okay, now that I've covered NSO, let's really start talking about some games. Starting with third party. I really think that unlike with the Switch 1, third parties are already going to be super confident about bringing games to the Switch 2 from day one. We're going to see a ton of third party games come to the Switch 2, and I'm expecting a lot to show up in this Direct. Here are just some of the big games that I expect to see in the Direct, starting with Elden Ring. Nintendo definitely seems to want to strengthen their relationship with FromSoft, and with Elden Ring still being an incredibly important game, I think that both parties are going to want to have it come to the Switch 2 as soon as possible. The game will most definitely come with the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC as well. I could even see them having some exclusive Legend of Zelda content in the game similar to the Switch release of Skyrim. I think we're also going to see Resident Evil 4 Remake show up. Nintendo and Capcom obviously have a great relationship already, plus the original Resident Evil 4 was released on GameCube first, so it feels right to have its remake also end up on a Nintendo console. Another big game that I think we're going to see is Grand Theft Auto 5. GTA 5 is just a massive game and it feels inevitable to me. I really think that the only thing holding this port back from being on a Nintendo console was the Switch 1's hardware capabilities. Now it might seem a bit odd timing wise considering that GTA 6 is coming out this year, but I still think that Rockstar wants to port GTA 5 to everything they possibly can. Now those are the third party games that I expect to show up, but here are some third party games that I personally really want to see. Of course I have to mention Hi-Fi Rush. This is one of my favorite games in recent memory. The game feels like a great fit for Nintendo's audience, and the PC version of the game also had data mined content hinting at a Switch release that never came to be. I'm really hoping that the rumored Rayman remake could show up here too. There's no real evidence saying that this game is coming soon, I just really want it. Ubisoft already has an amazing relationship with Nintendo, so if the remake is real, I think that the Nintendo Direct would be the perfect place to show it off. I also really want Baldur's Gate 3 to show up on the system. I adore this game and think it would be a perfect fit for the Switch too. This is yet another game that I think could benefit heavily from the mouse functionality, making it control much more like the PC version of the game. The game is also one of the most played games on Steam Deck, so there's definitely an audience for handheld Baldur's Gate. This one I'm a little less sure about just because of exclusivity and everything, but I could also potentially see Square Enix showing up in a big way with Final Fantasy VII Remake and possibly Rebirth. With Square Enix seemingly wanting to end exclusivity with their releases, it would make sense for these games to make the jump to the Switch too. I'm not as sure about Rebirth, but Remake feels very likely in my opinion. And what I mean by I'm not sure about it coming to the Switch because of exclusivity, I know that the games already came to PC, but seeing as how neither of the games are on Xbox yet, I'm still kind of curious if maybe PlayStation has a console exclusivity deal. And finally, for third-party stuff, I'm expecting to see a big push from Microsoft. I'm expecting Phil Spencer to even show up in this Direct, maybe have him show up and talk about their plans to try and release any upcoming Xbox Studios titles that are going multi-platform on the Switch 2 as well. My biggest hope for a possible Microsoft presence in the Direct is the potential for the Master Chief Collection coming to the Switch 2. Ideally day one. That would be a huge announcement for me. Alright, so now that we've gone over all the third-party offerings, let's talk about first-party games. Of course, we gotta start with Mario Kart. It was the one game shown off in the Switch 2 trailer, and I think that it's going to be one of the Switch 2's launch titles. The new trailer in the Direct is going to show off new gimmicks as well as a track editor. I actually made a video going more in depth about what I want in the next Mario Kart if you want to check that out. I also think that more of the roster will be revealed, and if this is in fact more of a Nintendo Kart, that will also be revealed here. Once again, I really believe that Mario Kart is going to be one of the Switch 2's launch titles, and I'm even expecting it to have a bundle at launch. So I said that Mario Kart is going to be one of our big launch titles for the Switch 2, but let's talk about the other one, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This is going to be our first real in-depth look at the game. We'll see a brand new cinematic trailer as well as a segment of pure gameplay, putting focus on using the Joy Mouse to aim. The game will also have a robust multiplayer mode similar to Prime Hunters. I've seen some people saying that they don't think that Metroid Prime 4 would be a launch title since it's also coming out on the original Switch, and it'll just be able to work through backwards compatibility. But I think this is going to be like an original Twilight Princess situation, however, and that Nintendo is going to release 2 versions of Prime 4 despite the backwards compatibility. For anyone who buys a Switch 1 version, there will be the option for a paid upgrade to the Switch 2 version when or if they decide to upgrade. I also think that this makes sense because I think that Nintendo will want a big single player title at launch, not just a multiplayer focused one with Mario Kart. This next title is one that I'm really hoping ends up being real because I've been hoping for it for a very long time. Kid Icarus Uprising HD, a full remake of the 3DS game, complete with its multiplayer functionality as well as some brand new story content. The game will have a revamped control scheme, but will also have the ability to replicate the original 3DS controls by using the Joy Mouse in place of the touchscreen. This game will be released in August. So next I gotta talk about Zelda, because I don't think that we're gonna get through this direct without seeing anything from that series. First off, there's gonna be no brand new Zelda title, but we will get a message from Aonuma. He'll talk briefly about the upgraded version of Breath of the Wild that I mentioned earlier, which will be available at the end of July. Aonuma will also mention that they're hard at work on the next mainline entry of Legend of Zelda. But before he leaves, he does have something else to share. Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD are finally getting released. Wind Waker HD is essentially going to be a slightly better version of the Wii U game, but Twilight Princess will have a bit more work done on it and be something closer to like Metroid Prime Remastered. Both games will be released in September. There will also be a physical version featuring both games. Moving into October, we have our big title being Pokemon Legends ZA. I think that we might see some new footage of the game running on Switch 2, but I doubt we're going to get any real new information. Next up, we have sort of the cozy game for the holiday season, a new Tomodachi Life. I'm kind of shocked that we never got one for the original Switch. All I really want out of a sequel is a title that just expands way more on what we already had in the last game. More apartment building space, more activities for the Miis to do, more relationship options, and bring over that extensive customization from Miitopia. It would be a wasted opportunity not to use that system for another Mii title. This game will be released in December. And finally, we have the big holiday title, the next mainline 3D Mario. In my opinion, there's no way we don't see the next mainline Mario this year, especially with it being the 40th anniversary of Super Mario Bros. This game will be titled Super Mario Legacy, and this game will also be Mario's take on a more open world style. I see the game taking cues from both Odyssey as well as Bowser's Fury. While this game is going to be the closest we've gotten to a true open world Mario game, it won't be one large seamless map. Instead, there are going to be multiple large areas to explore. Think about how Sonic Frontiers structured its different islands. The title will have a more traditional 3D Mario moveset as well, somewhat of a middle ground between Mario 64 and Odyssey. Mario is going to retain a lot of his movement options from Odyssey, but he's not going to have Cappy in this. Instead, there will be a unique mechanic for each major world. As the name Legacy suggests, I think that this is going to be another big celebration of Mario's history, much like Odyssey, but this game will focus on previously established Mario locations from the series history instead of brand new ones. Some examples of this could be the Mushroom Kingdom being expanded on much more than the one in Odyssey. Maybe it could take cues from its appearance in the Mario movie by having more platforming integrated into every part of the kingdom, making it feel more natural and just a part of how the Mushroom Kingdom works. Another world we could get could maybe be DK Island or the Jungle Kingdom. I think that this could act as sort of a first glimpse at sort of a refresh for the Donkey Kong IP, which I still think that we got to look at in the brief Mario Kart teaser, and I think we're actually going to see more of it next year for Donkey Kong's 40th anniversary. I think Yoshi's Island could be a cool area to explore as well, another example of a location that we've never really gotten in 3D before. The closest we got to it was the Yoshi's Island track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Yoshi's Island also feels like a location that they would want to include, with Yoshi seemingly playing a big part in the Mario movie sequel, and I really think that Nintendo is slowly going to put more of a focus on brand synergy when it comes to the Mario IP. One other area that I would really want to see, but I doubt it's going to happen, is Sarasaland. This would be its first true appearance since Super Mario Land. With all the smaller kingdoms within it potentially acting as different biomes, I think that it could be a really cool area to explore in 3D. Honestly, if they wanted to go fully open world, Sarasaland could even make up the entire world map. And finally, you gotta have Bowser's Kingdom. Once again, I think this area could combine its appearance from previous Mario games with some of the elements that were seen in the Mario movie's depiction of it. I know I'm probably totally wrong with my predictions on what the next 3D Mario is going to be, but I really do think that open world is the next step for that evolution that they were going towards with Odyssey and then subsequently Bowser's Fury. Either way, Super Mario Legacy will release in November. Now there are going to be some notable first-party omissions from this direct, being Splatoon, Animal Crossing, and even Smash. As much as Animal Crossing and Splatoon are incredibly big for Nintendo now, I don't think that they're going to want to have all of their heavy hitters in year 1. They're definitely going to hold back some titles for year 2 of the system and beyond. The same goes for Smash Bros. I definitely think that we're going to get something for Smash within the next 2 years, but unless it's just a deluxe version of Ultimate, I don't see us getting Smash Bros. In year 1. And that's about all I've got for my Switch 2 Direct predictions. These are probably way off from what we're actually going to get, but it's still fun to think about nonetheless. But what do you guys think, and what are your most wanted games from the Switch 2's first year? The Direct is right around the corner, so we're all going to get answers soon enough. But for now, I think that's enough out of me. So if you guys like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Later.